first, there's a misnomer, teaching a class. Let's call it lead a discussion. How's that? I got a one-sentence description of how this should go. Tell us about being an elder. Go everywhere with that. And I know you've had a class and study on qualifications and such things, so certainly we're not going to go there. I've got 3 pages of rambling notes. 45 minutes looks like a long time from here, but maybe I got an hour and 45. I don't know. But I got lots of stuff to share with you. I love being an elder. It's just, I feel that's a place that God has put me. And I've been in big companies all my life in sales. And in sales, that's the bottom rung of a sales company. You're just a sales rep. You'll never hear sales rep without just in front of it. When you go in, you talk to the receptionist and who are you? And I'm Dwayne with whatever company I'm with at the time, and it's just a sales rep. Well, then you want to climb to be a regional manager and a district manager and a area manager and get into the home office, and I never got to do any of those things. In most of the companies, maybe I'm just bitter, but you kind of got to schmooze a little bit, and you kind of got to drink a lot, it seems like, and stay out late, and I do none of the above. I don't laugh at the jokes and such things, so I've just been a sales rep all my life. And I thought, well, I sure hadn't get to use many of my talents like that. I'm still just a sales rep, 39 years later. But what it's allowed me to do is be at every function with my kids, all growing up. I wasn't on the road somewhere with somebody else that I really didn't like or care about. And it allowed me now to be in what I consider the best management job of my life, and it's for eternity. And that's being an elder in my home congregation. Like Cody said, I've been there since 1974. I was 13 years old. My mom's still able to worship there, and my dad passed last August, and we've enjoyed Concord Road, but it's my church. I own that church. I take ownership of it, and it's my Boy Scout responsibility to do whatever I can to leave it better than I found it. And so I don't view having attained the title of elder as anything. It means nothing to me. It's just a different level of service. I'm going to serve however I can in the church. And I served as missions deacon. I remember when Clay, our oldest, was less than a month old, they appointed me missions deacon. And I thought, wow, they hate me. You know, back in the day, deacons were appointed and told to do what they were going to do. And you say, yes, sir. And man, now I got to organize door-to-door knocking campaigns and such things. And boy, I just don't know how I can do that in Brentwood, Tennessee. But you know, I had 3 great mentors, and they were quite a bit older than me. All 3 of them took Bibles behind the Iron Curtain way before the wall fell, and just had a real passion for it. And I came to learn and appreciate it at a much younger age, something I would never have appreciated otherwise, and that is, I've seen some, we've all got poor people laying around here. They sit at stop signs with signs, and they look pitiful and all. And if you go to other countries, you'll see those people look rich compared to other people I see. And it's very humbling to know that God demands their soul back just like He created me. And I came to learn that through missions. And it's given me a bigger sense of purpose and a bigger sense. You know, I wrote this down about the Sermon on the Mount one time in my Bible. And Christianity is not something that you hear. It's not something you talk about. Christianity is something you do. We're called to do. And Christ taught that throughout his whole ministry. And then, you know, at the very end, not at his death, but at his ascension, when he had those that he loved most gathered around him, you know, I would assume, I've not passed, but my dad did, and I was with him, and we didn't talk about the weather, and we didn't just talk about a football game or baseball or what have you. You know, you talk about things that are really important at your last day, at your last minute. And just like Dad talked to me about some things, Christ talked to his followers about some things too. And what did he say? He said, go and do. We're a church that each one of us has a responsibility to go and do. And so all that to be said, you know, I'm just always going to try to go and do something. And being an elder is my opportunity to do something, volunteering, serving at a different level than I've served before. And I serve with just a wonderful group of guys, all very like-minded. You know, we're down in the Nashville area, the buckle of the Bible Belt. And unfortunately, we've seen churches around us go in all kind of directions. And so we get a lot of this, well, are y'all a liberal or conservative? Well, we're none of the above. We're just scriptural. That's all we want to be. And we don't make any bones about it. You know who we are before you come in the door. Our motto is Beacon of Truth, and we try to stand by that. And we just want everybody, if you vet your new members, and that's a big thing, we have forms for everything, but we have a new member form. Yeah, here it is. I didn't have a blank one, but I have kept every new member form for the 11 going on 12 years that have come to be with us. And we ask them basic questions, but we ask them about, well, what's your previous congregation? What brought you to Concord Road? What is your impression of Concord Road? Always on that, we get two things. We get friendly. Be an outgoing church. Be friendly to your visitors. We're known as a friendly church. We've always been a friendly church. As I've visited churches for vacations and different things, boy, there's some not friendly churches. I used to, in my early career, go to Memphis, Tennessee. And an elder at Concord Road, he was in the dentistry sales back then, Keith. And so Keith and I would meet in Memphis on Wednesday and go to a particular church out on the west side of Memphis there for Wednesday night Bible study. And it kind of got to be a game or just an interesting thing. We'd go stand right in the middle of their foyer as everybody's leaving for class. You know, you got the little devotional in front. And we just stand there, and everybody just part and walk by us. And it was just interesting that nobody bothered to say hello. So we are a friendly congregation, and we're a scriptural congregation. Every single one writes on their form, including this form, friendly and scriptural. Is there anything you'd like to discuss with us while you're there. And then an important question in the church anymore is this your only marriage? Yes or no? And if no, was your early marriage dissolved by death or by the divorce? One of the major topics in our brotherhood today is marriage, divorce, and remarriage. In fact, back in 2018, this couple came from California, and they said they wanted to talk to us about marriage, divorce, and remarriage, to know our position. Now, I appreciate that. It's important. And I've already gotten way too deep into the discussion before I even really introduce what I wanted to say, so I go everywhere when I talk. Let me just stop a minute and go to Titus 1, verse 5. And you find part of the qualifications there, and everybody knows those. But as I looked at this, you know, Titus was blank by Paul to establish elders in blank city. He was commanded by Paul, and Paul gets his marching orders from God. So he was commanded by Paul to establish elders in every city. No church was exempt from that command on the island of Crete. Well, it's quite obvious that it's God's plan that elders be in every church. But not just guys. God wants spiritually mature men to lead his church. And spiritually mature is really a key part of this. And there's the qualifications that go under that, of course. But spiritually mature, and was I spiritually mature at age 51? Well, I was getting there. I'm still getting there. But I've learned a lot. I'm in a group of men called Home Mission. And we try to send evangelists out throughout the country. We've got about 12 of them right now. And we try to help struggling churches from shutting their doors. I think the Churches of Christ lose as many as 200 churches a year. It's very disturbing. And I drive by them in my work all the time in the rural areas, just tiny little Churches of Christ out in the country. And I can see how people get older and then the kids don't stay around and they shut the door. But we try to help struggling churches. We try to help churches that need to evangelize in their own community. We've got a program called Habanero, which if you know anything, and I know next to nothing about habanero peppers. I don't like heat, and I don't grow them, but habanero pepper is different colors as it gets different levels of heat, they tell me. So our group is out of Texas, and so they've got this habanero program, and it's to go out and help you identify prospective members of the church and or people that you want to bring into the church, and it's got the different levels of what kind of prospect they are. So we do the habanero program with them. But we also support them with a group of lessons called SALT. It's from the Sunset Academy of Leadership Training, which is an offshoot of SIBI, Sunset International Bible Institute. And there's 16 lessons here that help a congregation and help prospective elders or current elders look at different topics in being an elder. In fact, our eldership, finally, after many years of trying, we're going to have our first retreat as elders coming up in February. And we're going to go through several of these lessons that pertain to us. And we need a retreat. We've had an elder that has just resigned, our elder that was resistant to a retreat. And so we kind of just all went along with him. But now that he just resigned due to age, he's still a member in great standing, we love him, but we're going to have us a retreat now and study ourselves. And because elders, we don't arrive either. We need to constantly monitor our spirituality and grow. We try to do that. Concord Road is a membership of about 550. We've got lots of agenda items every single week. We meet every week at 4 o'clock. If it's a big agenda week, we meet at 3 o'clock. And we go to 5:45. It's a big time commitment. I'll show you, we come with a front page is full of prayer requests. Shut-ins, sickness. Man, the amount of cancer going on at our church has just been phenomenal in the past year to 2 years. It's really been unprecedented how many of our personal families, not to mention this next section, illness for Concord Road friends and family. And there's always a lot there, but our own personal people with different cancers has really been quite unbelievable. And then we pray for missing members, families needing prayers. We've had a lot of marriages this year. Just a world of marriages out of our church this year. So we pray for those upcoming things. Then we got a whole section here of our mission programs. I think we're in 11 to 13 countries with our mission program, not to mention all of our domestic mission programs that we do. I'll say in where we live, we're a very blessed community. Our budget is about $1.8 million, I think, this year. We'll exceed it probably by $300,000. And always, since way before I started on the eldership, our goal is to minimal give 40% of our total budget to missions and benevolence. It's one of the highest totals that I'm aware of in the church. And our church is an offshoot of the old Lawrence Avenue congregation. It's got a phenomenal history. Lawrence Avenue was responsible for the first, if you will, mission program to Africa many, many years ago, right after World War II. There was a correspondence course. I'm sure you've all heard of Eva Braun, Hitler's girlfriend. Well, somehow or another, her sister, and I forget the sister's name, somebody Braun, had a correspondence course. And it found its way to an officer in the Africa Corps. And then it found its way to Mr. A.O. Essien, a native Nigerian. And next thing you know, there was several thousand baptisms reported because of this man in this Bible correspondence course. And it got back to Lawrence Avenue, and I'm really paraphrasing this story. There's a whole book about it. But that we need mission people to come and work with us. So through that, they sent people, and the program has flourished. Ghana and Nigeria is where we do a whole lot of work. I'm personally working with Mr. Good News Peter in Nigeria right now, and he has 20 teachers. That's what we can afford right now. along with all the other programs we have. But in those African countries, Bible is required, for crying out loud. And they teach it in whatever flavor of, there's a lot of private schools that the Charismatics have, that the Catholics have, that the Presbyterians have, you name it. But they love it when we fund the Bible teacher. And so we've got a few in private schools, but we've got a bunch in public schools. And so we're teaching true New Testament Christianity in the public schools in Nigeria. And it's just a marvelous thing. And the conversions and all. But that all came because Lawrence Avenue, which then saw that Brentwood, Tennessee, which was rather undeveloped in 1968, was a place that was going to grow up. And they sent a group down to start Concord Road. I got there in 1974, shortly thereafter. So, and what we've learned is the more a church is focused on going and doing, the less you get focused on internal strife and internal little splinter groups and such. We have, give or take, 550 people. And I always say that we're the most like-minded group of people, all going kind of like little kids' soccer, going in the same direction together. And I appreciate it so much. And it's because, one, we try to be the beacon of truth. We let everybody know that there's no surprises when you come to Concord Road. We meet with every new member. I hear of other churches that just accept new members into the church. They may or may not meet with them later. But if you do that, how do you know what they're getting? How do those people know who they're coming to worship with? So we meet with them before, and I'm just really proud of how we do things for such a large and diverse, we all have different jobs, we all have different thoughts on different things, but when it comes to getting to heaven, that's our one thought, is helping each other get to heaven and looking out into the community, be it close by or worldwide, and helping them. So what I believe elders bring to a church is leadership, stability, and a sense of trust. Obviously, you've got to trust who leads you. Leaders lead by drawing people to them. I just picked up a quote the other day. John Wooden, one of the greatest basketball coaches of all time, he led by every Wednesday. He'd be out on the court of Pauley Pavilion sweeping with a broom. Leaders lead not by waving their hands and hollering and look at me and that kind of thing. Leaders lead by doing. And so, in addition to being qualified and spiritually mature, and of course being willing, I throw in you have to be able. It's important to move chairs and tables as an elder. I'm not above moving chairs and tables and vacuuming the floor after fellowship events. My biggest bane on this earth is the people that can't hit our dumpster after a fellowship event with the trash sacks. And it just bothers me to no end, but I'm down there picking up pieces of trash and throwing it in the dumpster. So when I pray, It's very personal. And I still pray to God for more wisdom. I pray for more patience. I pray for more love. And I pray for more opportunity to go and do, and for others to come to us. And that's something we include in most of our prayers every single Sunday when we go through this sick and shut-in agenda that I showed you. And what I find is when I pray, it's not so much as is God going to answer each one of these requests that I make, but it's all about aligning my mind to God's mind. Just like Jesus said, not my will, but thy will be done. And the more I do that, the more I see things happen. And in the semi-short time that I've been on the eldership, I have seen quite a few times where God just, it seems, directly intervened in a situation we had. It's an awesome thing and a humbling thing when God steps down and helps you right at the moment. And what that takes is spiritual maturity, to have the wisdom, to have the patience, to wait on God. I've learned that. At age 51, I just wanted to get it done, get it off the agenda, move on to the next thing. But there's some decisions that require a little bit of patience and a little bit of wisdom and a whole lot of prayer and aligning my thoughts to God's thoughts. And things just seem to work out. Another reason I chose to be on the eldership, well, they chose me, but it's funny. A lot of people go home and they have to pray about it, talk to their wife about it, and it's certainly a team. Boy, without Leanne, and I'm going to talk about elders' wives in a second, but without Leanne, man, you don't get through things. But I just immediately said yes. I didn't think about it. I had always hoped that I would be chosen. I think we're all to aspire to be elders. And in Luke chapter 12, verse 47 and 48, you get the parable of the just and the unjust steward. And it goes through the story there, and at the end, it can definitely be talked about, those who knew to do and didn't do, more stripes, and those that didn't, few stripes, and you talk about levels of punishment in hell through that, and that's not a salvation issue, but I think it teaches that in several places through the Bible. But then at the very end of that part, in the second part of verse 48, it says, "For everyone to whom much is given, much will be required. And to whom much has been committed, of him they will ask the more." I feel God has given me much. And I don't feel there's enough, not that we can possibly work our way into heaven, but just through what He's blessed my family with over the years, I can't do enough. And I want to do more. And so this is an opportunity to do this. All right. Yeah.
As an eldership, how do y'all make decisions for the church? And also, how do y'all deal with issues in the church?
Well, one, we have like 42 deacons at Concord Road. So we have a deacon just about for every kind of little service you can imagine. Each one of us, right now, 7 elders. At the first of the year, we're going to go to 9. But each one of us has a group of those deacons, be that the youth deacons, the mission deacons, the buildings and grounds deacons, the audio deacons, the teacher program has its own elder and deacons, and we hope they bring issues to us. One thing we never do is make a decision, again, in haste. We listen, and we've got open doors. Every new member knows that we meet from 4 to 5:45 every single Sunday, unless it's a holiday or we happen to have a clear agenda and don't need to meet. But we encourage people to come meet with us. So we listen. First thing you do is be good listeners. Sales has taught me to be a good listener. Others of our eldership that aren't in sales aren't as good a listeners. And I help encourage them because I've just had the opportunity to be a listener. But, listening, you find out so much more than trying to assume that you know and just jump in and I got this figured out. So we listen, but we never make a decision when something's brought to us. We will deliberate and debate. We'll try to get back very quickly. I have been very fortunate in the short 11-year tenure that I've been on the elders is our real issues have been very few and far between. Again, that's that 550 members all going in the same direction. We all, are focused on works and not, internal issues, and I think that's a big help. When I came on, we just got over a very traumatic situation with our church secretary, hugely traumatic, and the elders did an extremely good job of that. We did lose a few families over that. It was that kind of issue where some thought they weren't harsh enough in the penalty, where others thought they were too harsh. But by and large, the core group stuck together. And it worked out to the very best. And I didn't get involved in that. It was none of my business. It was their business at the time, but I learned a lot. And of course, I learned a lot once I got on the eldership of how they handled it. I will say this summer, just the end of June this summer, I experienced the awfulest event that I've ever been through as an elder, and hope I don't go through it again. It became very personal to me. I invested, I don't know how many hours and hours in the two parties. And you're talking about losing sleep, not eating, not working well at my regular job, taking away from my regular job to do this. It was just awful. In the worst way I could describe awful to you. And again, you pray on this a lot. What does pray do? Does God personally intervene? I saw him. I really did. I saw him initially, immediately. It was amazing what I saw between Sunday night and Tuesday morning, what happened. But then it got uglier before it got better. And as I was kind of the youth elder, I was a little closer to this, I was closer to the situation than the other guys. And part of the party I've watched grow up from a child. And know and love that family so much. And, you know, wisdom and patience paid off. Prayer paid off. It was about when did we go see that Chicago concert? Was that September? It was 3 months. It was 3 solid months. We went to see this concert. I couldn't even enjoy it. It was great, but I was not there. And, but it's worked out. Wisdom and patience. Again, I go back to spiritual maturity. I have not arrived, but I'm a lot better than I was. And again, to my congregation's credit, 550 people, boy, this was a real issue, and it became very public. And we lost one family out of all the families. There wasn't any taking sides. The one family did. But again, we're a group of people that just wants to help each other go to heaven. And so that's kind of my awful story. In making decisions, I've been an elder when we only had 4 for 550 people for a short period of time. We've had as many as 9. We're going back to 9. But it doesn't matter if there's 4 or 9. And even numbers, odd numbers, that's irrelevant to us. I always heard, well, you got to have an odd number so you vote, right? No, that's not the way to do it. The way to do it is, it's 4-0, it's 9-0, it's always whatever to nothing. We all leave that room in total agreement every single time, and every single person is satisfied with every single decision. That's spiritual maturity, I believe. It's important. Nobody wants to be a loser. Nobody wants to say, see, you were wrong. We won. Nobody wants that. And so deep decisions takes a lot longer to hash that out, to make sure everybody's on board and in agreement with the yes or the no. But we're always something to nothing. And 5 minutes? Yes, sir? Go ahead.
I was just curious, Dwayne, like, in your experience, like, with elders being retired,
Uh-huh.
is that better, or if they are employed, like, where I'm sure they have more time to devote, you know, where I guess it's a balancing act to try to figure out.
You need to have diversity in your elders. Managing church is a business. It is a business. So you need business-minded people. I've seen our elders where we had too many non-business people, but it's a balance of business and other types of occupations, and we have that now. You need to kind of balance your ages in the eldership, because spiritual maturity is something that I learned from my elders. I was a junior elder at age 51, literally and figuratively. And so, but I was more able to do the work than the senior elders. I was more able at that time to get out and be with the folks and set up stuff for fall festival or whatever have you there. So, and we're always looking, and again, 42 deacons. We can see how our deacons do their service for their individual works, and we kind of go and groom those guys. You know, deacons, we have the congregation put up names to us. And I say, used to be the elders just appointed deacons. You're going to do this and you're going to do. It don't work that way anymore. You got to, would you mind being our bus ministry guy? Or are you okay with our security guy? Because they didn't say, no, I don't want to do that. No, now. They don't just say, oh, great, I'm appointed as a deacon. It's just a different, seems like, wet world anymore. But as far as elders go, we kind of handpick those. That's an important thing, and we want to make sure the continuity of the fabric of Concord Road since 1968 and Lawrence Avenue since way before continues. Typically, 5 of us have been deacons for a long time before we became elders. 2 of us are new. One's from Minnesota, one's from Cleveland, Ohio. They didn't get to be a deacon, but they had the wisdom and maturity coming from their other congregations. The other 2 that we're going to put in place in January, one has been an elder in another congregation in North Carolina, and one has been a long-time deacon at Concord Road. So our deacon program's important for us to kind of gauge how they work and how they interact with others and with the elders and what they do. Does that kind of answer? Hiring of ministers. We've hired an associate minister this year. We're in the process of hiring a youth minister right now. We've got a form for that. We've got a big form for minister forms. We have a big form for prospective elders. We go into depth about scriptural knowledge and how you think. Every teacher we have at Concord Road fills out a form. We want to know what they think. Interesting, we had a Christian evolutionist come to us from New Jersey, he and his wife a few years ago. And they were members. Of course, they didn't fill out the big form. They just filled out the little form. But then when he wanted to teach, he filled out the teacher form, a more in-depth form. And wow, we looked, and when it got to about God and creation and the 7 days and that kind of thing, he had a different idea. And so, well, we wanted to talk to him about it. And he says, well, okay, so you think this, and I think that God just put the plans in place, and then it just created itself for over all these millions of years kind of thing. And he said, but that's not what I'm teaching on. I've been asked to teach on something entirely different from the New Testament, and that'll never come up. You're right. But suppose out in there in the hall, it comes up one day, and you're an approved teacher by our eldership, and you've got this idea. So we politely turned him down. And then they eventually, shortly thereafter, left our congregation. But it's important. Our forms are very important. And then I brought this, not to open it up upon you. We're already out of time. See, I didn't know if I had 20 minutes or an hour and a half worth of stuff. But I keep this file here just full of information with tabs for all kind of our elder forms, our minister forms, past and present, missions. I keep everything in this little black file. If it ever goes missing, I'm in a world of hurt. But I want to be able to go back and it's the continuity that's important, and keeping the fabric of who we are. And I feel things like this are important. Yes, ma'am.
On average, how much time a week do you spend on the elder preparation and meetings?
Well, the meeting is close to 2 hours every week. And then depending on what the issues are, whether we're working on it during the week and whether we're working with committees, like when I get back next week, the Youth Minister Search Committee is going to have a meeting with us after Wednesday night service. They've got it down to, they'll have it down to 3 people, and then we'll start interviewing. We always have our committee take all the resumes, look through them, get them down to 3 people, and then present that, and we pick the top one. But of course, we always ask, what's your opinion of those 3? So we kind of know going in. We've got a missions dinner Wednesday night before church. I mean, there's all kind of things. World Bible School had their annual fundraising dinner at our church a week ago Thursday night. So we're involved in a lot. We go and do a lot. And, you know, it doesn't even seem like it's work or anything. It's just something we do. This incident over the summer, we met for unbelievable amount of hours. And the more elders you have, of course, the more each person has to have their say in stuff. So actually we could get along right well with 4, but it just doesn't look right. We can get along well with 7. We've gotten along well with 7 for years. But 9 does help spread each other out. We have color groups, each one of, and Leanne again is so helpful in the color groups. That breaks our congregation into geographical areas where we can be in touch with this group and help for, like, we do meals for funerals, and a color group in that area does those, new babies and that kind of thing, sick people as needed for meals. And I'm out of time, way out of time, sorry. Elders' wives. Wives are much more in tune with certain issues than men are. We're responsible for making the decisions of the church. You know, it's not about hierarchy in God's mind. It's about roles. Men and women are equal. We just have different roles. And so I would say 80 to 85% of issues we talk with our wives about. They're very trustworthy to keep these issues just to themselves. But I want to know from a woman's opinion on several of these issues what it looks like. Because guys just, we don't get it sometimes. And I want to make sure in the process of making a decision, we look at it from all sides. Does that kind of, anything else? I've never gotten an opportunity to really give my philosophy on being an elder, so I've enjoyed thinking about and bringing this to you, so thank you for letting me. If you would like these 16 lessons and our different forms, I'm glad to leave them. I ran them off blank just so you'd have them. So thank you very much, and thank you for being so great to our children. It's great to have a good church for them to worship.